Look, I'm not saying Maya Torres was special or anything. She was just a cargo hauler on Kepler Savan, minding her own business. Which, on that particular Tuesday, involved a truly magnificent breakfast burrito from the station's only decent food cart. The kind of burrito that makes you question your life choices in the best possible way. No regrets. She was standing in docking bay 7, savoring what was objectively the highlight of her week, when Captain Hendricks decided to ruin everything. Torres. You're up. Maya looked at him, mid-bite, cheese dripping down her chin in a way that definitely didn't scream diplomatic material. Up for what? Mental compatibility assessment. Galactic Council's orders. All humans on station need to be evaluated. Hendricks had that look, the one that said he'd rather be literally anywhere else but had paperwork that said otherwise. Can't I finish my now, Torres? And that's how Maya Torres, unremarkable cargo hauler with a decent work ethic and a catastrophic relationship with her snooze button, ended up in Conference Room 3 facing Ambassador Vrilkith, the Galactic Council's most decorated telepath. Vrilkith looked exactly like you'd expect a pompous alien mind reader to look. Tall, crystalline features that probably took hours to polish, robes that cost more than Maya's annual salary, and an expression that suggested he'd rather be reading the thoughts of literally anyone more important. His species, the Covery, were basically the galaxy's premium psychics. Top-tier telepaths, the kind that could browse your memories like a streaming service and judge your viewing history. This will only take a moment, Vrilkith announced, his voice doing that resonant thing that species with 3 vocal cords can pull off. I will simply establish a basic mental connection, assess compatibility, and do I need to do anything? Maya interrupted, still holding her burrito. Like, should I think specific thoughts, or simply remain still and clear your mind? Clear her mind. Right. Maya Torres had never cleared her mind in her entire 28 years. Her mind was basically a browser with 47 tabs open, 12 of them playing different songs, and at least 6 showing error messages. But sure, clear mind. She could try. Vrilkith placed his elegant crystalline fingers near Maya's temples, not quite touching because that would be beneath him, and his eyes did that thing where they glowed with psychic energy. Very dramatic, probably practiced it in front of a mirror. He reached into her mind. For approximately 1.3 seconds, everything was fine. Then Vrilkith made a sound that no dignified ambassador should ever make. Something between a gasp and a dial-up modem experiencing existential dread. His eyes went wide, then wider, then rolled back in his head like a slot machine hitting the worst possible jackpot. He collapsed, just straight up dropped, like someone had unplugged him from the universe. Maya stood there, burrito in hand, staring at the most powerful telepath in 7 sectors twitching on the floor of Conference Room 3. She said, which really captured the eloquence of the moment. Did I do that? Captain Hendricks rushed over, his face cycling through confusion, panic, and the specific exhaustion of a man whose paperwork just multiplied exponentially. What happened? I don't know. He just touched my head and now he's doing the horizontal mambo with the floor tiles. Dr. Quilnot, the station's Viridian medical officer, burst through the door with a medical kit that looked like it could perform surgery on 5 different biologies simultaneously. Her multiple eye stalks focused on Vrilkith, then Maya, then back to Vrilkith, like she was watching the galaxy's worst tennis match. Move aside. Quilinara's tentacles were already scanning the fallen ambassador with equipment that beeped in urgent geometric patterns. His neural pathways are in complete chaos. Synaptic misfiring across all telepathic channels. What did you do to him? Nothing. I just stood here, thinking about burritos. Burritos. Hendricks looked like he wanted to retire on the spot, and whether I'd left my quarters oven on, and that song from the commercial for those chips. And wondering if fish get thirsty. You know, normal stuff. Quilnara's eye stalks swiveled to stare at Maya with a mixture of scientific fascination and primal fear. That's what you were thinking during a telepathic scan. I mean, also whether we're actually living in a simulation and if cats can taste spicy food. But yeah, mostly the burrito thing. Vrilkith twitched again and mumbled something that sounded suspiciously like, "Make it stop in 3 different languages simultaneously." Hendricks rubbed his face with both hands. Torres, you just mentally hospitalized the Galactic Council's chief ambassador. Maya looked at her burrito, then at Vrokith, then back at her burrito. So, is this a paid leave situation? Or a quarantine? Now, can I finish? No. As security escorted Maya to holding bay 12, she caught a glimpse of Dr. Quilnara loading Vrokith onto a medical transport, still unconscious, still occasionally twitching. Other aliens in the corridor pressed themselves against the walls as Maya passed, like she was radioactive, which was ridiculous. Maya Torres was the least dangerous human on Kepler-Savan. She couldn't even keep a cactus alive, but apparently, she'd just weaponized her ADHD against the galaxy's most powerful mind. In the holding bay, staring at the ceiling, Maya had one thought. She really should have finished that burrito. Quarantine, as it turned out, was incredibly boring. Maya had been in holding bay 12 for 6 hours, and the most exciting thing that had happened was when the ventilation system made a weird clicking noise for 45 seconds. She'd named it Gerald. Gerald stopped clicking. She missed Gerald. The door hissed open, and Dr. Quilnara entered with enough scanning equipment to reverse engineer a planet. No. Before you ask, Maya said from her bunk, I still don't know what I did. That makes both of us. Quilnara's tentacles arranged various devices around Maya with practiced efficiency. Ambassador Vrokith is still unconscious. It's been 6 hours, Maya. 6 hours. Kavri telepaths recover from mental strain in minutes. The longest recorded recovery time was 42 minutes after scanning a particularly traumatized war veteran. So I'm worse than war trauma. You're unprecedented. One of Quilnara's eye stalks focused on a scanner while another watched Maya's face. The Galactic Council is furious. They're calling this an attack. An attack? With what? My grocery list. They don't understand what happened. Neither do I. Honestly, Quilnara manipulated a holographic display. I need to run some tests. Try to figure out why your mind apparently functions as a telepathic flashbang. My mom always said I had too much going on in my head. Your mother might have been more perceptive than the entire Galactic Council. Quilnara activated a neural scanner. Think normally. Don't try to control it. That's the only way I know how to think. The scanner hummed to life and immediately started displaying readouts that made Quilnara's eye stalks recoil. By the void, she whispered. Maya, your neural activity is simultaneous. You're processing multiple unrelated thought streams at the same time. Yeah, it's called existing. Is that weird? Weird. Most species think linearly. One thought, then another, in sequence. Even during multitasking, thoughts are compartmentalized. Quilnara pointed at the display showing what looked like a fireworks show, interpreted by a caffeinated artist. You're running parallel processes constantly. No wonder Vrokith collapsed. He tried to follow one thought and got hit with everything at once. Maya squinted at the readouts, so my brain is just too spicy for telepaths. That's horrifyingly accurate. Yet, outside the holding bay, Maya could hear raised voices. Captain Hendricks was having what sounded like his 5th argument of the day, this time with someone via hologram. I don't care what the council thinks, Hendricks was saying. She's not. Alimor, she's a cargo hauler who was eating lunch. A cargo hauler who incapacitated our chief ambassador. The hologram voice was high-pitched and incredibly offended. We demand she'll be isolated from all telepathic species immediately. She's already in quarantine. Permanently. Maya looked at Quilnara. Are they talking about me? They're talking about whether humanity should be banned from telepathic contact across the entire galaxy. Because I think too loud. Because nobody understands human neurology. Quilnara deactivated the scanner. When Earth joined the galactic community 5 years ago, your scientists tried to warn us. They said human consciousness was fundamentally different. We assumed it was cultural bias. Every species thinks they're special. But we actually are special. More like specifically incompatible. Quilnara's tentacles twisted in what might have been amusement or horror. Hard to tell with Viridian. Maya, what were you thinking about during the scan? Specifically, Maya leaned back against the wall. Okay, so I was thinking about whether I left my oven on, which made me remember I don't have anything in my quarters to cook anyway. Which made me think about that burrito. Which reminded me I'm hungry. Which made me remember this commercial jingle for crispy chips from when I was 7. Which got stuck in my head, so I was trying not to think about it, but that made me think about it more. And then I was wondering why trying not to think about something makes you think about it, which is basically a mental paradox. And also I was anxious because telepathy sounds invasive, and I was wondering if he could see that embarrassing thing I did in 3rd grade. And simultaneously I was aware of my breathing and trying to breathe normally, but then conscious breathing feels weird. And there was an itch on my ankle, and I was thinking about whether fish get thirsty, and whether we're in a simulation. And if I'm in a simulation, am I even really me? And also I needed to pee but didn't want to interrupt. And stop. Please stop. Quilnara had raised a tentacle like a traffic cop. That was all at once. That was like 5 seconds of thoughts. You want the rest? No. No. I absolutely don't. Quilnara looked at her equipment like it had personally betrayed her. You're running a dozen cognitive threads simultaneously. Vrokith tried to read one and got all of them. It would be like trying to drink from a fire hose made of fire hoses. So I'm like a denial of service attack, but for minds, that's terrifyingly accurate for the 2nd time today. The door opened again. Captain Hendricks entered, looking like he'd aged 5 years in 6 hours. Torres, we have a situation. Worse than the unconscious ambassador situation. Yes. Another telepath wants to try reading you. Maya sat up. What? Counselor Thane. He's a Zethian mind reader. Thinks Vrokith was just weak. Hendricks pulled up a hologram, showing an alien that looked like an angry purple egg with too much confidence. He's volunteering to prove humans aren't incompatible with telepathy. That's the worst idea I've ever heard, and I once tried to microwave a fork. The council approved it. If he succeeds, it proves you're not a threat. If he fails, he ends up like Vrokith. Exactly. Maya looked at Dr. Quilnara, who was already preparing medical equipment with the resigned efficiency of someone who knew exactly how this would end. When? Maya asked. Tomorrow morning. Get some rest, Torres. Yeah, Maya said, staring at the ceiling where Gerald the ventilation system used to click. I am sure I'll sleep great knowing. I'm about to maybe brain damage another alien with my thoughts about whether penguins have knees. Hendricks paused at the door. Do they? Say. Now you're thinking about it too. You're welcome. After they left, Maya lay on her bunk, her mind doing exactly what it always did. Thinking about everything and nothing, all at once, in a beautiful chaotic symphony that apparently functioned as a psychic weapon. She really hoped Counselor Thane had good health insurance. Counselor. Thane arrived the next morning with the confidence of someone who had never been wrong in his life and was about to start now. He was Zethian, which meant he looked like someone had drawn an alien, erased it, and then drew it again from memory while slightly drunk. Purple, egg-shaped, with these weird crystalline protrusions that supposedly enhanced psychic abilities. His robes were even more expensive than Vrokith's, which Maya was pretty sure was intentional. I have performed over 10,000 mental evaluations, Thane announced to the room, which included Maya, Captain Hendricks, Dr. Quilnara, and a nervous security officer named Krieg, who looked like he wanted to be literally anywhere else. I have interfaced with the most complex minds in the galaxy. Criminal masterminds, quantum physicists, even a hive consciousness once. Cool, Maya said from her chair. I once ate 17 tacos in one sitting. Thane's crystalline protrusions flickered with irritation. Your attempt at humor does not mask your anxiety. UN. Who said I was anxious? I'm actually wondering if you polish those crystals, or if they're self-cleaning. Dr. Quilnara made a sound that might have been a suppressed laugh. Captain Hendricks shot Maya a look that clearly said, "Please stop antagonizing the telepath." Rilkith was overconfident and underprepared. Thane continued, floating closer to Maya's chair. Zethians could hover. Of course, they could. I, however, have studied your species' psychological profiles. I understand human neural architecture. Do you, though? Maya asked. Because the last guy who understood human neural architecture is taking a nap he could wee and wake up from. Rilkith was weak. I am not. Famous last words, Maya thought. She'd seen enough Earth movies to know how this ended. Krieg, the security officer, was standing by the door, looking increasingly uncomfortable. He was Torthon, which meant he looked like a bipedal lizard, had a baby with anxiety itself. His scales were doing this color shift thing they did when Torthon were nervous, cycling from green to yellow like a biological mood ring. "Is this safe?" Krieg asked, his voice cracking slightly. "Perfectly safe," Thane said in a tone that suggested he'd never been more wrong about anything. "Defined safe," Maya muttered. Thane positioned himself in front of Maya, his crystalline bits glowing with psychic energy. "Clear your mind, human. Yeah, we tried that last time. Didn't work out great. Then simply relax. This will take only moments." Maya sighed and settled into the chair. What else could she do? If she refused, the council would probably quarantine all humans. If she agreed and Thane ended up like Vrilkith, well, at least she'd have company in the Terrible Ideas Club. Thane's eyes began to glow. His crystals pulsed with energy. He reached out with his mind, and Maya could actually feel it this time, like someone was knocking on a door she didn't know she had. He entered her consciousness. For approximately 2.7 seconds, nothing happened. Then Thane's eyes went wide. His crystals started flickering like a broken neon sign. His mouth opened, and what came out was possibly the most disturbing thing Maya had ever heard. "The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell," Thane said in a monotone. "Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. The narwhal bacons at midnight." "This is fine." "What is he saying?" Hendricks demanded. Earth meme references. Kilnada sight her eye stalks wide with scientific horror. "He's speaking in human internet culture." "Why do we even know that?" Maya asked. "Heat," Thane added helpfully, then collapsed. Dr. Quilnara rushed forward with her medical equipment, while Krieg pressed himself against the wall like he thought Maya might mentally attack him next. "Same symptoms as Vrilkith," Quilnara announced, scanning Thane's unconscious form. "Complete neural pathway disruption. Synaptic chaos. He's going to be out for days." "I told you this was a terrible idea," Maya said, standing up from her chair. "This is unprecedented," Quilnara continued, her tentacles moving frantically over her instruments. "Two of the galaxy's most powerful telepaths, both incapacitated by a single human mind. Captain Hendricks was already on his communicator. This is Hendricks. We need a medical team to conference room 3. Another telepath is down. Yes, the same human. No, I don't know how. Jessin." "The team?" Krieg hadn't moved from the wall. His scales were now a concerning shade of orange. "Is she going to attack us next?" "I'm not attacking anyone," Maya protested. "I'm just thinking. It's not my fault thinking is apparently a contact sport in space." "2 telepaths," Hendricks said, ending his communication. "Torres, you've mentally hospitalized the telepaths in under 24 hours. It's not a hobby." Dr. Quilnara was recording everything, her scientific curiosity apparently overriding her survival instinct. "Maya, I need to understand what happened. What were you thinking this time?" "I don't know. Normal stuff. I was thinking about whether his crystals are uncomfortable, and whether hovering uses more energy than walking. And I was remembering that time I accidentally called my teacher mom in 5th grade, and wondering what Krieg's scales would look like under a blacklight. And all of a sudden I was mentally composing a grocery list, and thinking about that embarrassing thing I did at the station social last month, and wondering if Thane could tell I was thinking about tacos again, and questioning whether thinking about not Thinking about something counts as thinking about it. And please, stop before my brain hurts. Hendricks interrupted. The medical team arrived and loaded Thane onto a transport next to where Vrilkitz still lay unconscious. 2 telepaths down. The station's medical bay was becoming a psychic casualty ward. As they wheeled Thane away, he mumbled one more time. "All your base are belong to us. Make it stop," Krieg whispered from the wall. Later, in her holding bay, Maya watched holographic news feeds showing the galaxy losing its collective mind. The Galactic Council was in emergency session. Telepathic species were demanding answers. Some were calling for humanity to be quarantined. Others were calling for an investigation into whether humans had weaponized their consciousness. And Maya Torres, cargo hauler, was at the center of all of it. Because apparently, her brain was too chaotic for the galaxy to handle. She wondered if they'd let her finish that burrito before the investigation concluded. Probably not. Dr. Quilnara visited later that evening with more scanning equipment and what looked like genuine fear in her eye stalks. "The Council wants to ban all human telepathic contact," Quilnara said quietly. "They're calling you a threat." "I'm not a threat. I'm just thinking too loud. I know. That's why I need your help." Quilnara pulled up a holographic display showing brain scans. "I have a theory about human consciousness, but I need to prove it before the Council makes their decision." "What kind of theory?" "That humans aren't dangerous, just fundamentally, catastrophically incompatible with telepathy." Quilnara's tentacles arranged the displays. "And if I'm right, this changes everything we thought we knew about consciousness. If you're wrong, then humanity gets quarantined from half the galaxy's species." Maya looked at the brain scans. At the chaotic fireworks display, that was her neural activity. "What do you need me to do?" "I need you to let me explain to the Council exactly what makes a human mind tick." Quilnara's eye stalks focused on Maya. "Think you can handle being the galaxy's first human consciousness ambassador?" "I can barely handle being a cargo hauler." "That's probably the most honest qualification I've heard all day." Outside the holding bay, the galaxy waited for answers about the human who broke telepathy with her grocery lists and existential questions. Inside, Maya Torres tried not to think about Penguin's knees. She failed immediately. The presentation to the Galactic Council was scheduled for the next morning, which gave Dr. Quilnara exactly 14 hours to prepare a lecture on why human brains were basically neurological chaos engines. Maya sat in her holding bay watching Quilnara assemble holographic charts, neural pathway diagrams, and what looked suspiciously like a slide titled, "Why Humans Are Cognitively Unhinged But Not Actually Dangerous." "You know," Maya said, "I feel like that title needs work. It's a working title." Quilnara's tentacles manipulated 6 different displays simultaneously. "The Council needs to understand that you're not a weapon. You're just neurologically incompatible with telepathic scanning." "How do you explain that to a bunch of aliens who think in straight lines?" "Very carefully." Quilnara pulled up a comparison chart showing a Kavri brain pattern next to a human one. The Kavri pattern looked like organized sheet music. The human pattern looked like a toddler had attacked a synthesizer. Most sentient species evolved linear consciousness. One thought leads to another in a clear sequence. It's efficient. Predictable. Telepaths can follow the thread. And humans are evolutionary disasters who somehow succeeded anyway. Quilnara zoomed in on Maya's brain scan. "You process multiple, contradictory thoughts simultaneously. Emotional responses, logical reasoning, sensory input, memories, hypotheticals, and random nonsense, all running parallel. It's cognitive anarchy." "You say that like it's a bad thing. For telepaths, it's catastrophic. They try to read one thought and get hit with everything at once. It's like trying to drink from 100 fire hoses that are all somehow on fire and also asking philosophical questions." Krieg, who'd been stationed as Maya's guard and had gradually become less terrified over the past day, spoke up from the doorway. "Why would evolution do that to you?" Maya asked Rugged. "Earth is kind of a nightmare planet. Our ancestors needed to think about food, predators, shelter, social dynamics, and whether that rustling in the bushes was wind or a tiger, all at the same time. The ones who could process everything simultaneously were the ones who survived. So you're a species of paranoid multitaskers. Basically, yeah. That explains so much about humans. Quilnara continued building her presentation. The council needs to see exactly what a human mind looks like in real time. Maya, I'm going to need you to demonstrate. Demonstrate what? Thinking. Exactly. Quilnara activated a neural recording device. This will project your thought process onto a holographic display. The council can observe without direct telepathic contact. You want to put my brain on TV? I want to show them why telepathy and humans don't mix. Quilnara adjusted the device. Think normally. Don't try to control it. Let them see what Vilkith and Thane experienced. This feels like a privacy violation. It's either this or humanity gets quarantined from a third of galactic space. Fair point. The next morning, Maya found herself in the council's main chambers via hologram. The actual council chambers were on a station 3 systems away, which was probably for the best given her track record with telepaths. The council consisted of representatives from 24 species, all looking at Maya's hologram with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. Several telepathic species had their representatives standing behind protective barriers, like Maya might somehow mentally attack them through a hologram. Captain Hendricks stood beside Maya's physical location on Kepler 7, looking like he'd rather be literally anywhere else. Again, "Councilors," Dr. Quilnara began, her hologram addressing the assembly. "I am here to present findings on human neural architecture and why it is incompatible with telepathic scanning." Incompatible. One of the Kaviri representatives stood, their crystals gleaming with indignation. "Your human attacked our ambassador." "My human," Maya muttered. "I'm not her pet." Hendricks elbowed her gently. "Not helping." Quilnara pulled up the brain comparison charts. Ambassador Vrilkith attempted to read a mind that processes information fundamentally differently than his species can comprehend. It wasn't an attack. It was a catastrophic compatibility failure. "Explain," demanded a Zithian counselor. "Probably related to Thane. Human consciousness is nonlinear. They process multiple simultaneous thought streams, emotional responses, sensory inputs, and random cognitive noise all at once." Quilnara displayed Maya's brain scan, which looked like a Jackson Pollock painting had gained sentience. When a telepath tries to follow one thought, they're hit with everything. It causes immediate neural overload. "You're saying humans are too stupid to think straight." The Kavriya representative's crystals flickered with smug superiority. "Actually," Maya said, stepping forward, "we're thinking too much for you to handle." Maya Hendricks warned. "No, I'm serious. You guys think in single file. We think in mosh pits. It's not better or worse, just different." Quilnara pulled up the neural recording device. "I'd like to demonstrate." "Maya, with your permission, go for it." The device activated, projecting Maya's thoughts onto the holographic display for the entire council to observe. For the next 30 seconds, they watched a real-time stream of human consciousness that looked like someone had weaponized attention deficit disorder. The display showed Maya wondering if the council was judging her outfit, remembering she forgot to send a message to her mom, hearing a song in her head, calculating whether she had enough credits for dinner, feeling anxious about being watched, noticing that one counselor had a weird mustache, wondering what alien mustaches are called, remembering an embarrassing moment from 6 years ago, being annoyed that she remembered that, thinking about whether fish get thirsty again, feeling hungry, wondering if thinking about being hungry makes her more hungry, questioning whether free will is real or just brain chemistry, and simultaneously being aware of her breathing. The council stared in stunned silence. "That was 5 seconds of human thought," Quilnara explained. "This is normal for them. They live like this. Constantly." "How do you function?" a counselor from the Viridian delegation asked, genuinely confused. "Practice," Maya offered. "It's not like we know anything different. This is just what thinking feels like." Krieg, watching from the side, spoke up nervously. "I accidentally touched one of her thought-recording devices yesterday. Got a glimpse of her mind for about 2 seconds. I had to sit down for an hour. It was just me thinking about lunch. It was 12 different thoughts about lunch, simultaneously, with background music. The council members were conferring among themselves, some looking disturbed, others fascinated, most just confused. Counselors, Quilinara continued, humans aren't dangerous. They're just neurologically unique. Direct telepathic contact will always fail catastrophically, but that doesn't make them a threat. It makes them incompatible with a specific type of technology. You wouldn't blame a species with 3 eyes for being unable to use binocular vision devices. This is different, the Kofari representative argued. Our ambassadors are in medical comas because they tried to read a mind that doesn't process information in a way their telepathy can handle. It's like trying to run the wrong software on incompatible hardware. The system crashes. Maya watched the council debate, their holograms flickering with various levels of agitation. Her fate, and possibly humanity's standing in the galaxy, hung on whether they could accept that some species just don't mix well with telepathy. Finally, one of the elder counselors, a Viridian, who looked about 300 years old, raised a tentacle for silence. "We will take this under advisement," the elder announced. "But first, I want to see a demonstration with proper safety protocols." "A demonstration?" Hendricks asked warily. "Yes. Multiple telepaths, observing from a safe distance with protective equipment." The elder's eye stalks focused on Maya. "If human minds truly are this chaotic, we need to see it documented properly." "No." Celestith clutched their helmet. "Get it out. You just got rickrolled by telepathy," Krieg observed from the doorway. "That might be a first in galactic history." Dr. Quilnara was recording everything with scientific glee. "Fascinating. The human tendency to have persistent music stuck in their consciousness actually transfers through telepathic contact like a cognitive virus." "Earworms," Maya said. "We call them earworms." "That's horrifying," Celesteth said, still trying to shake the song from their mind. A third telepath, braver or more foolish than the others, approached from 7 meters. This one was Torthen like Krieg, with scales that were already shifting nervously through the color spectrum. Attempting closer observation, the Torthen announced, 5 meters. Maximum shielding. They reached out mentally, and their scales immediately went through colors that probably indicated severe psychological distress. She's constructing a fake argument with someone. Multiple someones. People who aren't even here. She est having a conversation with imaginary opponents, while simultaneously thinking about dinner and wondering if I am related to Krieg and calculating the square root of something and remembering something. Embarrassing from childhood and ovoid, she est thinking about 3 different things she est worried about, while also being hungry and the music is still there, and the Torthen pulled back, breathing heavily. "How do you live like this?" "1 day at a time," Maya said. "Sometimes 1 hour at a time. Occasionally 1 minute at a time when things get really chaotic." A Viridian telepath moved forward next, tentacles trembling. "I'll try from 3 meters. Minimal contact." "You sure about that?" Krieg asked. "The closer they get, the worse it seems. Science requires sacrifice." The Viridian reached out, and for a moment, everything was fine. Then their eye stalks started swiveling independently like a broken security camera. "She's thinking in puns," the Viridian reported, voice filled with horror. "During a crisis situation, she's making mental puns about telepathy. Puns about mind reading. Thought. Provoking content, getting inside her head. She's weaponizing wordplay. I'm not doing it on purpose," Maya protested. "That's just how my brain works." "It's like a mind is defending itself with dad jokes," the Viridian continued. Retreating quickly, this is unprecedented. Up in the observation deck, the council members were having what looked like increasingly frantic discussions. Maya could see holographic displays showing her neural activity. The telepaths, stressed responses, and probably detailed breakdowns of exactly how human consciousness was breaking every rule of organized thinking. "One more test," We're going to observe collectively, all telepaths together, from maximum safe distance, with combined shielding. We need to document the full scope of human cognitive architecture. This feels like overkill, Maya said. You put 2 of our best telepaths in comas with your grocery lists. Fair point. The telepaths arranged themselves in a semicircle, all at maximum distance, all with shields active. They looked like an extremely nervous psychic SWAT team, preparing to breach a door made of existential questions. On my mark, Vernash said. 3, 2, 1. Scan. All the telepaths reached out simultaneously, their combined mental observation focusing on Maya's consciousness like a dozen spotlights converging on a stage. For seconds, they observed the beautiful, chaotic, nonsensical symphony that was human thought. Maya, for her part, was thinking about whether the telepaths had eaten breakfast, what Krieg's scales would look like under different lighting, whether she remembered to turn off her quarters lights, the stupid crispy chips jingle again, wondering if the universe was infinite or just really big, calculating her remaining station credits, remembering she needed to call her mom, feeling self-conscious about her hair, wondering if fish get thirsty for the 40th time, questioning whether she was thinking too loud or not loud enough, and simultaneously being aware that she was being observed, which made her think about what they were seeing, which made her self-conscious, which created a recursive loop of self-awareness that fed back into itself. The telepaths pulled back as one, several of them looking physically ill. It's like trying to read a book, one of them said, where every page is from a different book, and they're all on fire, and the fire is also asking philosophical questions, and there's music playing, and the music is also on fire. That's beautiful, Maya said. Can I use that? She's not even trying, another telepath added. This is just her baseline. Her resting state is cognitive chaos. Bernash pulled up his final readings and transmitted them to the council observation deck. Counselors, I can confirm with certainty that human consciousness is fundamentally incompatible with telepathic observation. Direct contact causes immediate neural overload in the telepath. The human mind processes too many simultaneous streams for our neural architecture to handle. It's not an attack. It's like trying to pour an ocean through a straw. In the observation deck, Maya could see the council members reviewing the data. Several looked disturbed, others fascinated. Most looked confused about how a species this mentally chaotic had managed to build a functioning civilization. Then something happened that nobody expected. In the Medical Bay 3 corridors over Ambassador Rilkith, eyes opened. The notification flashed across every display in the room. The pompous Kavri telepath who'd started this whole mess 3 days ago was finally awake. He's conscious, Dr. Quilnara announced, checking her remote medical feeds. Elevated stress indicators, but conscious. He's speaking... What's he saying? Hendricks asked from the observation deck. Quilnara listened to the medical feed, and one of her eye stalks actually recoiled. He says, and I quote, "They think in puns during crisis situations." Maya felt a small surge of pride. I mean, I do though. That's the first thing he says after a 3-day coma, Krieg observed. You broke him. I didn't break him. I just showed him what human thinking looks like. Rokith's voice came through the medical communication system, weak but insistent. Counselors, I must address the assembly. Up in the observation deck, they patched Vrilkith through. The Kavri ambassador appeared via hologram, looking like he'd been through a war and lost to his own assumptions. Ambassador, the council elder said, you've been unconscious for 3 days. Perhaps you should rest. Vrilkith's crystals flickered weakly. I need to speak about the humans. Everyone in the observation room, the testing chamber, and probably several surrounding corridors held their collective breath. I was arrogant, Vrilkith continued. I assumed human consciousness would be like other species. Organized, linear, comprehensible. He paused, and his next words came out with genuine awe. I was catastrophically wrong. Human minds are chaos. Beautiful, functional chaos. They think in spirals and circles and tangents that somehow all connect. They process contradictions, simultaneously. They hold multiple truths at once. They worry and hope and calculate and dream all in the same moment. So you agree they're dangerous? The Kaviri counselor asked hopefully. Dangerous? No. Rilketh's hologram focused on Maya, still sitting in the examination chair looking confused about being the center of a galactic incident. They're remarkable. Humans navigate cognitive complexity that would overwhelm our most advanced minds. And they do it every moment of every day without even noticing. They've weaponized uncertainty into a survival trait. They gave you a 3-day coma, someone pointed out, because I tried to force their consciousness into a framework it was never meant to fit. Rilketh's crystals dimmed with what might have been embarrassment. The problem wasn't the human. The problem was my assumption that all minds worked the same way. The council chamber fell silent. Even Maya wasn't sure what to say, which was unusual for her. Finally, the council elder spoke. So what do you recommend, Ambassador? Simple protocols. No direct telepathic contact with humans. Maintained communication through standard methods. And perhaps study them more carefully before assuming we understand consciousness itself. No. Rilketh's hologram flickered. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go back to medical. I can still hear that terrible chip commercial jingle, and Dr. Quilnara assures me it will fade in approximately 6 to 8 weeks. Sorry about that, Maya called out. Don't be. In 3 days of unconsciousness, I learned more about the nature of thought than in 40 years of telepathy. Rilketh's hologram managed something that might have been a smile. Humans are fascinating disasters. The galaxy is better for having them. Just keep them away from telepaths. The connection ended. In the observation deck, the council members conferred briefly before the elder raised a tentacle for attention. The Galactic Council has reached a decision. Humans will not be quarantined. However, new protocols are hereby established. No telepathic species may attempt direct mental contact with humans without extensive shielding and safety measures. Human cognitive architecture is officially classified as incompatible with standard telepathic technology. Maya let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. So I'm not a threat? You're a hazard, the elder corrected. But a manageable one. Try not to mentally hospitalize any more ambassadors. I'll do my best. 2 weeks later, Maya Torres was back to hauling cargo on Kepler-7, which was exactly what she wanted. The galaxy had spent 14 days losing its collective mind over human cognitive architecture. And Maya had spent most of that time giving interviews, answering questions, and trying not to accidentally think too loud near telepathic species. No. She was done with fame. She wanted burritos and boring supply runs. Torres. Captain Hendricks found her in the cargo bay, checking inventory on a shipment of mining equipment. Got a minute? Please don't tell me another telepath wants to scan me. Actually, the opposite. Hendricks pulled up a holographic message. The Galactic Council wants to offer you a promotion. Official liaison for human telepathic relations. Good pay, better quarters, diplomatic immunity. Maya stared at the offer. It was generous. Probably more credits than she'd see in 5 years of cargo hauling. A chance to represent humanity on a galactic stage. No thanks, she said, returning to her inventory scanner. No? Thanks? Torres, this is a career-making opportunity. I'm a cargo hauler. Captain. I'm good at moving boxers. I'm not good at politics or diplomacy or being the face of humanity, yes. Weird brain stuff. Maya checked off another crate. Besides, I like the quiet. Well, relatively quiet. Cargo doesn't try to read your mind. Hendricks looked like he wanted to argue but couldn't actually falter logic. Fair enough. The council also sent a formal apology for the incident. They should apologize to Rilketh and Thane? I just stood there thinking about burritos. Ver actually requested to speak with you before he left the station. He's still here, waiting in conference room 3. Same room where you originally put him in a coma. Maya found Rilketh standing by the window. watching ships dock and undock. From Kepler-7, the Cavalry ambassador looked better than he had 2 weeks ago, though his crystals still flickered occasionally like they were buffering. "Ambassador," Maya said, staying near the door. "I'm really sorry about the whole coma thing." "Don't be." Vrilkith turned, and his expression was different than before. Less pompous, more thoughtful. I needed the humility. 40 years as the galaxy's premier telepath, and I'd forgotten that consciousness itself is a frontier we barely understand. So, no hard feelings. None. Though I am curious about something. Vrilkith's crystals brightened. During our brief contact, I glimpsed something fascinating. You were simultaneously worried about trivial things and contemplating profound questions. How do you function with that much mental noise? Maya shrugged. Humans have a saying. You get used to it. I've been thinking like this my whole life. It's just normal. Normal, Vrilkith repeated. Your species' normal is another species' existential crisis. I mean, we also invented reality TV and nuclear weapons, so maybe we're just chaos personified. Perhaps that's your strength. Vrilkith moved toward the door, then paused. I've been telepathic since birth, Maya Taurus. I've read minds across the galaxy, but I've never encountered anything as complex as human consciousness. You think in beautiful disasters. That might be the nicest thing anyone said about my ADHD. After Vrilkith left, Maya returned to the cargo bay where Krieg was helping sort crates. The Torthan security officer had been permanently assigned to the cargo section, partly because he requested it and partly because he'd gotten used to Maya's chaos. Heard you turned down the council position, Krieg said, his scales showing comfortable green tones. Cargo hauling is honest work. Plus, no telepaths trying to read my grocery lists. Fair point. Krieg paused. You know the whole station is talking about you. Right? The human who weaponized thinking. I didn't weaponize anything. My brain just doesn't play well with others. Still, 2 ambassadors, 3 days unconscious, and a complete restructuring of how the galaxy views consciousness. Krieg's scales flickered with what might have been admiration. You changed everything by just being yourself. I was trying to eat a burrito. Greet us. Diplomatic incidents start with good food. That evening Maya sat in her quarters with the burrito she'd been denied 2 weeks ago. Same food cart, same extra guac, same questionable life choices. The station hummed around her with familiar sounds. Ships docking, cargo moving, the distant chatter of a dozen species going about their daily routines. Her communicator chimed. A message from Dr. Quilnara. Maya, thought you'd want to know. I published my paper on human cognitive architecture. It's titled Cognitive Anarchy. The Human Condition. Already getting citation requests from Xenop psychology departments across the galaxy. You're going to be a case study for decades. You're famous. Or infamous. Probably. But thanks for not getting me killed when you accidentally broke telepathy. Quilnara. Maya smiled and deleted the message. Famous was the last thing she wanted. Her communicator chimed again, this time from her mother on Earth. Honey, someone sent me a news article about you putting aliens in comas with your thoughts. Is this true? Are you eating enough vegetables? Call me. Love you, Mom. Some things never changed, regardless of how much the galaxy's understanding of consciousness evolved. Maya finished her burrito, let her mind wander through its usual chaos of random thoughts, persistent jingles, and philosophical questions nobody asked for, and felt completely content. Somewhere on the station, telepaths avoided her corridor with careful precision. The Galactic Council had established new safety protocols. Human cognitive architecture was now taught in xenopsychology courses as an example of non-linear consciousness. And Maya Torres, the cargo hauler who accidentally became humanity's most unintentional ambassador, returned to moving boxers and thinking too loud for the galaxy to handle. 3 systems away, in a medical facility that specialized in telepathic trauma, Chancellor Thane woke up from his extended coma. His first words were mitochondria and never gonna give you up. And his doctors weren't sure what to do about that. In the station cafeteria, aliens of various species watched Maya eat lunch from a safe distance. fascinated and terrified in equal measure. She was thinking about whether penguins had knees again. Krieg, sitting across from her, noticed the staring. Does that bother you? Everyone watching? Not really. They're not reading my mind. They're just looking. I can handle looking. Maya took a bite of her sandwich. Besides, I'm thinking about fish again, so the staring actually helps distract me. Do fish get thirsty? Right. That's what I've been trying to figure out. Across the cafeteria, a Zethian telepath shuddered and left quickly, like they could feel the questions spreading through the collective consciousness. Captain Hendricks approached their table with a datapad and the resigned expression of someone whose job had gotten significantly weirder. Torres, got your new assignment. Please tell me it's just cargo. Just cargo. Supplies to Research Station Helix. Standard run, no telepaths within 3 systems. Perfect. Though apparently word has spread, some species are specifically requesting human crew for supply runs to areas with high telepathic activity. Maya looked up from her sandwich. Why? They figure telepathic pirates won't board ships with humans. Too risky. Hendricks actually smiled. Congratulations, Torres. You've become a deterrent. I'm like a mental guard dog, more like a mental landmine. But sure, guard dog works. After Hendricks left, Maya sat with Krieg in comfortable silence, thinking about her next cargo run, whether she needed to update her quarters ventilation system, that persistent Crispy Chips jingle, her mom's message, whether the universe was infinite, if she should learn another language, what Krieg's home planet looked like, whether she left her recycling out, and simultaneously feeling content with her weird, chaotic, mentally hazardous existence. In Medical Bay 7, Ambassador Vrilkith was preparing to leave Kepler 7. Dr. Quilnara was giving him final clearance. Any lasting effects? Quilnara asked, scanning his neural pathways. I still hear the chip commercial occasionally, Vrilkith admitted. And I find myself thinking in tangents. Multiple thoughts at once. It's disconcerting. That's mild cognitive contamination from human thought patterns. Should fade in a few weeks. Actually, I'm not sure I want it to fade. Vrilkith's crystals pulsed thoughtfully. For 40 years, I thought in perfect linear sequence. It was efficient, but limiting. Now I occasionally think in spirals, consider contradictions, hold multiple perspectives simultaneously. It's chaotic, but it's shown me possibilities I never considered. You're saying human cognitive chaos improved your thinking. I'm saying maybe consciousness isn't meant to be neat. Maybe the mess is the point. Vrilkith looked out the medical bay window, toward the cargo section, where Maya was probably thinking about 17 things simultaneously. That human showed me something profound by just existing. Sometimes the most advanced systems are the ones that look like disasters. Dr. Quilnara's eye stalks swiveled with amusement. Going to put that in your official report? Absolutely not. The council would think the coma caused permanent damage. Probably wise. In her quarters that night, Maya lay on her bunk, staring at the ceiling, her mind doing exactly what it always did. Everything and nothing, all at once, in magnificent chaos. She thought about cargo routes and her mother's concern and whether fish experience thirst and if Krieg would want to grab lunch tomorrow, and that stupid chip jingle and whether consciousness was just emergent complexity and if she should finally watch that movie everyone recommended, and whether penguins had knees and how weird it was that thinking had become her accidental superpower, and whether superpower was even the right word, and maybe she should call her. Mom in the ceiling had an interesting pattern, and was she hungry again? And her communicator chimed one last time. A message from someone identified only as Galactic Xenopsychology Institute. Ms. Torres. We're conducting a study on nonlinear consciousness and would like to interview you for our research. No telepathy involved. Just questions. Standard academic compensation. Please respond at your convenience. Maya smiled and set the communicator aside. Maybe later. Right now. Right now. She had cargo to haul and thoughts to think, in a galaxy that had finally learned that humanity as chaos was an unabug in the system. It It was the whole point of the system. Somewhere in the galaxy, telepaths were rewriting their understanding of consciousness. Research papers were being published, safety protocols established, the fundamental nature of thought itself was being questioned. And it all started because Maya Torres stood in the wrong place at the wrong time, with a burrito and a brain that thought too loud. She fell asleep thinking about 17 different things, comfortable in her chaos, unaware that she'd become a legend in xenopsychology circles as the human who broke telepathy with her grocery lists and existential questions. In the morning, she'd haul cargo, think about fish, and accidentally terrify any telepath who got within range. Just another day being human in a galaxy that was still learning what that meant.